The first fire, full expansion. The night sky over Earth had always been a comfort. For thousands of years, men and women looked up at the stars and dreamed. Sailors navigated oceans by their light. Poets wrote of their beauty. Children made wishes upon them. But on that night, the stars betrayed Earth. At first, people thought it was just another meteor shower. Social media lit up with shaky phone video streaks of light, cutting through the clouds, fiery tails painting the heavens. But the streaks were too controlled, too synchronized. They didn't break apart. They didn't scatter. They descended. Hundreds of them, ships, the size of mountains, slipped through the atmosphere as if it were water. Their hulls shimmered black, absorbing the fire of re-entry, reflecting nothing. No sound of engines. No sonic booms. Just silence, terrifying, absolute silence, as if the air itself bowed before them. They arranged themselves into a perfect grid above the oceans. Over the Atlantic, over the Pacific, above the great cities of Earth. They hung there, like dark gods gazing down at their worshippers. Across the planet. Everything stopped. In Times Square. Tourists dropped their hot dogs and phones to stare upward. In Tokyo, trains halted mid-route as commuters pressed against windows, whispering prayers. In Lagos, 1,000 market stalls fell silent all at once, traders frozen with hands still on fruit, spices, cloth. Even the animals seemed to know. Dogs whimpered and pulled at leashes. Birds fled their roosts in swarms, screaming across the skies. And in a crumbling Newark apartment, Daniel Howell sat on the edge of his bed, cigarette burning down to the filter. He had seen war. He had seen men bleed out in alleyways, seen shells turn buildings to rubble. He had thought nothing could surprise him anymore. But this was not war. This was something else. Something ancient. Daniel rubbed his face, rough with stubble, and stared at the peeling wallpaper across from him. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. For a strange moment, he thought, maybe they'll just leave. Maybe they'll watch. U.S. for a while, and then go. Then the first beam came down. It was not a weapon, as humans understood weapons. It was light, pure, focused, impossible light that carved through the night and slammed into the Atlantic. The sea hissed like boiling oil. In a heartbeat, miles of water vaporized, leaving a blackened scar where waves had once danced. The ships moved, slowly, deliberately. Each one opened its belly, and the beams rained down. New York vanished. Paris burned. Lagos split apart as if a god had drawn a knife across it. Skyscrapers folded inward. Highways melted into rivers of glass. Entire neighborhoods dissolved as if they had never existed. There were no demands, no communication, no warning. Just destruction. Daniel stumbled to his feet as the walls shook. The cigarette fell to the floor, burning a tiny hole into the carpet. Outside, a second sun lit the horizon as a power plant exploded. The blast wave rattled his window, sent a crack zigzagging across the glass. Somewhere below, a child screamed. Daniel's body moved before his mind caught up. He grabbed the medic bag from under his bed, the one he hadn't touched in years, the one still packed with gauze, tourniquets, and half-empty morphine vials. His boots went on automatically, his jacket. His hands shook, but the rhythm was familiar. His old life had never truly left him. When he stepped outside, the air was thick with smoke and screams. Cars jammed every intersection. Horns blared. People shoved each other in blind panic, some clutching children, some carrying nothing but the clothes on their backs. Others just ran with nowhere to go. Sirens wailed, broken by the thunder of collapsing buildings. Daniel pushed through the chaos, his medic bag slamming against his hip. Instincts carried him look for the wounded, drag them to cover, stop the bleeding. Don't think about the big picture. Just save one more life. But then he saw her. She wasn't human Dot at first. Daniel thought his mind was playing tricks. Maybe. The smoke. Maybe the shock. But no, she was real Dot tall. At least a head taller than him. Skin the color of pale silver, shimmering faintly in the firelight. Her eyes huge, luminous, too bright, scanned the chaos with desperation. Blood-soaked. Her robes, thick and green, dripping onto the cracked pavement. She stumbled against the hood of a burned-out car, leaving a streak of alien blood across the metal before collapsing to her knees. The crowd noticed. Her Dot and fear turned them savage. That's one of them. Someone shouted, "Dot!" A man hurled a rock. It struck her shoulder with a dull thud. She winced, curling protectively, her hands shaking. "She's one of the invaders!" Another screamed, "Kill her!" The crowd surged forward. Daniel didn't think. He shoved through the mob, his voice sharp and commanding. "Back off!" Some hesitated. Some shouted curses at him. But Daniel ignored them. He dropped to his knees beside her, tearing open his bag. Up close, she was shaking badly, her breathing ragged. The wound across her ribs was deep, maybe from shrapnel. Definitely fatal if untreated. Her eyes flicked up to his face. Shock, confusion, and then fear. "Stay back," she whispered. Her voice was strange, too melodic, but the words were perfect English. Blood bubbled on her lips. "If they see you helping me, they'll—" "Shut up," Daniel growled. Her eyes widened at the tone. No one had ever spoken to her like that, he could tell. But Daniel wasn't interested in etiquette. He pressed gauze hard against the wound. She gasped, arching in pain. "I'm not watching someone bleed out in front of me," he muttered. "I don't care what color your blood is," the crowd jeered. Some threw more rocks. Daniel ignored them. He wrapped bandages tight, his fingers moving fast, steady, practiced. He had done this in alleys, trenches, kitchens. Blood was blood. Breath was breath. Above, another beam split the horizon. Fire washed the skyline. The alien girl clutched his wrist suddenly, with surprising strength. Her eyes locked onto his, wide with something deeper than pain. "You don't understand," she whispered, her voice urgent, trembling. "They didn't come to conquer your world." Daniel froze. Her grip tightened, her luminous eyes burning into his. "They came to end mine." Asterisk the stranger's wound. The subway station smelled of rust and dust. Its lights had long since gone out, and only the glow of distant fires painted the cracked tiles. Daniel half dragged, half carried the alien girl down the stairs, her weight heavy against him. She was taller, stronger than she looked, but every breath rattled her chest. He laid her across a bench and tore open his bag again. Gauze, antiseptic, needle, and thread. His hands moved fast, the way they had back. "In the war," she hissed as he probed the wound, green blood slicking his fingers. "You're going to have to hold still," he muttered. Her voice was weak, but there was still steel in it. "You shouldn't be doing this." Daniel ignored her, threading the needle. "You want to die here on a broken bench. Be my guest. But I've carried too many bodies out of burning cities. I'm not adding yours to the list." She flinched as the first stitch pulled tight. "Why?" she whispered. Daniel didn't look at her. He kept stitching. "Because you're alive. That's enough." Silence fell for a moment, broken only by the distant rumble of collapsing buildings above. Dust drifted down the stairwell. Finally, she spoke again, her voice quieter. "My name is Sira." Daniel tied off the last stitch and sat back, wiping sweat from his brow. "Daniel." Her glowing eyes studied him, unblinking. "You don't trust me." Asterisk, nope. He packed his kit. "But I don't trust a lot of people. Doesn't mean I'll watch them bleed out." For the first time, Sierra's lips curled into the smallest of smiles. It didn't last long. Pain seized her, and she groaned, pressing a hand against her ribs. Daniel slid down to sit beside her, pulling a cigarette from his pocket. His lighter clicked, the flame casting flickers across the grimy tiles. "Those things up there?" he said finally, blowing smoke. "They're your people?" Her head turned slowly toward him. In the dim light, her silver skin seemed fragile, almost translucent. "They're Cathari," she said, bitterness dripping from the word. "The Dominion. To them, I am not their people. Asterisk not anymore." Daniel frowned. "Then what the hell are you doing here?" Her gaze drifted upward, as though she could see through the concrete to the burning sky above. "Running, hiding. I thought Earth would be far enough. I was wrong." The silence pressed heavy between them. Daniel felt the weight of her words. But it wasn't answers he wanted right now. It was clarity. And clarity wasn't coming. Asterisk, he stubbed out his cigarette on the floor. "So let me get this straight. Those monsters are burning my world because of you?" Sierra didn't flinch. Her jaw tightened. "Yes." For a moment, Daniel wanted to scream. His fists clenched. The image of New York folding into fire flashed behind his eyes, the screams of people crushed under collapsing concrete. And all because of her? But then he looked at her again, pale, bleeding, alone. Her eyes didn't hold arrogance. They held grief. Shame. Asterisk. "Hell," he muttered, dragging a hand down his face. "Of course, it's never simple." Sierra leaned forward, wincing. "Listen to me. The Dominion does not simply conquer. They consume. They strip worlds of resources, enslave the people, and move on. Earth is not their first target, nor will it be their last. But I carry something they fear, something that can undo them." Daniel stared at her. "Undo them? You're telling me you're the key to stopping that?" He jabbed a thumb toward the ceiling, where the muffled roar of destruction rolled through the ground. Her eyes locked on his. Yes, before Daniel could answer, a metallic clang echoed down the stairwell. Heavy footsteps, the hiss of hydraulics. Sierra's eyes widened. "They've found me." Daniel grabbed his bag, yanking her to her feet. She stumbled, clutching her side. "Move," he hissed. The footsteps grew louder. A shadow filled the stairwell. Then the subway hatch slammed open, and light flooded in. A Dominion soldier stepped through. He was massive, armored head to toe in sleek black plating that hummed with energy. His helmet glowed with vertical slits of red light, and his weapon, a long staff crackling with blue fire, hummed like a caged storm. His voice was deep, mechanical. "You dare hide a traitor?" Daniel pushed Sierra behind him, his heart pounding. The soldier leveled the staff at them. "Then you'll die with her." The weapon flared. Daniel didn't have a plan. He didn't have a weapon. All he had was instinct, and instinct had kept him alive this long. His eyes darted to the station around him. Rusted pipes, loose tiles, broken glass. His hand shot to the bench, grabbing a jagged shard. The soldier stepped forward, raising the yaw. Staff to strike. Daniel lunged. The shard drove into the gap beneath the soldier's helmet. Sparks exploded. The soldier roared, thrashing, his staff firing wild bursts of energy that scorched the ceiling. Daniel clung on, driving the shard deeper. Teeth gritted as heat burned his hands. The Dominion soldier convulsed, then collapsed. In a smoking heap, Daniel stumbled back, panting, the shard clattering from his bloodied fingers. His ears rang. His heart hammered so hard it hurt. He had killed before. In war. In alleys. But never like this. Never against something not even human. Sierra stared at him, wide-eyed. You killed a Dominion soldier. With nothing. Daniel wiped sweat and soot from his brow. His hands still shook. He forced his voice steady. With enough desperation, anything works. Sira looked down at the smoking corpse, then back at him. Perhaps that is why they fear you. Daniel froze. Fear me? I don't even know what the hell's going on. Sira's voice dropped, trembling. The Dominion has crushed 100 worlds. 1,000. They break armies. They shatter fleets. They enslave entire civilizations. And yet, she looked at him with something like awe. You stood against one of their soldiers with a piece of glass, and you won. Daniel shook his head, wiping blood on his jacket. That wasn't winning. That was surviving. Her eyes glowed brighter in the dark. To the Dominion, those are the same thing. Fire and shadows, the air vibrated with metallic footfalls. Not one set, not 2, dozens. Daniel's pulse pounded in his ears. He hauled Sira up from the bench, his arm around her waist. We're moving. Her face was pale, but her eyes blazed. There's no way out. They'll trap us. Daniel glanced at the dead soldier on the floor. Smoke, still rising from the shattered gap in his helmet. Then we make one. They stumbled deeper into the subway tunnels, boots splashing through puddles, the concrete echoing with their steps. The sound of Dominion soldiers closing in followed them like a drumbeat. Every few seconds, Daniel looked over his shoulder. Red beams of light lanced down the stairwell behind them, visor slits glowing in the dark. Faster, Daniel muttered, half-dragging Sira. I can't, she hissed, clutching her side. Not without. The tunnel wall erupted in a shower of sparks as a bolt of blue energy slammed into it. Molten rock sprang, not without cover. Daniel shoved her behind a support pillar as another bolt seared past, the heat licking his face. He dropped his bag, ripping it open. Gauze, morphine, bandages, nothing useful. Then his eyes fell on the broken glass shard, still slick with alien blood. He picked it up. Sira stared at him like he'd lost his mind. You're going to fight armored soldiers with glass? Daniel met her gaze, jaw tight. Got a better idea? She hesitated. Then her hand reached into the folds of her robe, pulling out a small device no bigger than a coin. It pulsed faintly, green light flickering. This, she said, a pulse charge. One use, short range. Daniel's eyes narrowed. And you're just pulling this out now? Her lips tightened. I didn't trust you. Another bolt screamed past. Shattering tiles. Daniel grabbed her wrist, forcing the device into his palm. You don't have to. Just tell me how it works. Press, throw, run. Simple enough. The red lights drew closer. He could hear the soldiers' mechanical voices, arcing in an alien tongue. Daniel sucked in a breath, thumbed the device, and lobbed it down the tunnel. A heartbeat later, a green flash lit the darkness. The tunnel filled with a soundless shockwave, rippling through concrete, through bone. Daniel's teeth rattled in his skull. The red lights winked out. Bodies thudded to the floor. For a moment, silence, and Sira's weak laugh. You may be reckless, but you learn quickly. Daniel grabbed his bag again. Reckless keeps us breathing. Move. They ran. The tunnels twisted downward, deeper into shadow. The smell of damp earth replaced smoke. Somewhere above, the world burned. But down here, it was like slipping into the veins of the city itself. Finally, when his lungs felt ready to burst, Daniel slowed. They ducked into an old maintenance room, its door half broken. Rust covered the walls. Daniel slumped against a pipe, chest heaving. Sira sank down across from him, sweat glistening on her pale skin. For a while, they just sat in silence. Then Daniel spoke, his voice low. You said they've done this before, to other worlds. Sira's eyes flicked to him. For a moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then she did, her voice almost a whisper. They call themselves the Cathari Dominion. Their empire spans half the stars. World after world falls beneath them. Entire civilizations enslaved. Their fleets move like storms, unstoppable, endless. They take resources, bodies, minds, until nothing remains. Her gaze dropped. My world was one of the first. We built their empire. And then we became its slaves. Daniel felt a cold weight settle in his chest. He thought of Earth cities, children, laughter, and imagined it ground down into dust, into chains. Then why are you here? He asked quietly. Sira looked at him with eyes that shimmered faintly in the dark. Because I refused to be a slave any longer. I stole something from them. Something they fear. Daniel's brow furrowed. What? Her lips pressed tight. Knowledge. Before he could ask, the ground trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Sira's head snapped upward. They're moving the heavy walkers. Daniel blinked. Walkers? The ceiling cracked. A thunderous boom echoed through the tunnels, followed by the sound of something massive grinding metal against stone. Daniel's gut clenched. We need to move. Now. They bolted out of the maintenance room, sprinting down the tunnel. The ground shook harder with every step. Somewhere behind them, metal claws tore through concrete. Where the hell do these things even lead? Daniel shouted. Sira's voice was ragged. Old human transit lines. They don't know the map. That's our only advantage. The tunnel split ahead 2 paths. Daniel hesitated for only a second. Left. They sprinted into darkness. Behind them, a shriek of metal as the tunnel roof collapsed, the walker forcing its way through. The ground shook so hard Daniel stumbled, dragging Sira upright again. She leaned heavily on him, her breath shallow. They burst into an abandoned platform, the tiled walls cracked and dripping. A rusted subway car sat derailed on the tracks, its windows shattered. Daniel shoved Sira inside. Hide. What about? You? She demanded. He gritted his teeth. I'll buy time. Her hand clutched his sleeve. You can't fight a walker with glass. Daniel's lips twitched in something not quite a smile. Watch me. The tunnel shuddered. The walker's head emerged 30 feet tall, insectal, armored like a tank. Its glowing eyes scanned the platform, and its cannon whirred to life. Daniel ducked behind a pillar, heart hammering. His eyes darted to the derailed car, the cracked ceiling, the dangling wires sparking overhead. Improvisation, desperation, human tricks. He scanned fast, brain running hot. Then he saw it a dangling cable arcing with electricity, swaying just above a pool of water. The walker stepped forward. The cannon aimed. Daniel bolted from cover, sprinting across the platform. The cannon fired blue light searing past him, blasting a crater into the tiles. Heat licked his back. He dove, grabbed the cable, and yanked. Sparks exploded around his hands. Pain shot up his arms. He slammed the cable into the puddle. The water lit up with white fire. The walker convulsed as electricity arced across its body, its joints seizing. For a moment, the monster froze, twitching violently. Daniel didn't wait. He grabbed a broken metal rod from the floor and charged, driving it into a seam of the walker's plating. Sparks erupted again. The walker screamed a sound like grinding. Steel then collapsed in a shower of debris. Daniel staggered back, chest heaving, smoke curling from his hands. His skin blistered from burns. His heart felt like it might explode. Sira stumbled from the subway car, staring at the wreck. You brought down a Dominion walker, she whispered. Daniel leaned against the wall, his legs shaking. Guess they don't make them Newark-proof. But Sira didn't smile. Her eyes were wide, awestruck, and something else. Fear. Daniel, she said slowly, do you understand what you've done? He gave her a tired glare. Saved our asses? She shook her head. No, you proved it. Proved what? Her voice was hushed, almost reverent. That humans cannot be broken. A broken city the air, above Newark, was Ash. Daniel and Syrah, staggered out of the subway ruins, just as the last thunder of Earth's missiles faded. For a heartbeat, the night sky was lit by dozens of blinding flashes. Humanity had thrown everything. It had its nuclear teeth, its last desperate hope. But the fleet above didn't even blink. The alien shields drank the fire. When the light faded, the Dominion Armada still hung there, untouched, patient as vultures waiting for carrion to stop. Twitching. Daniel stood in the ruined street, fists clenched so hard his nails cut his palms. He'd seen hopeless fights before, but this was beyond hopeless. This was slaughter. Around them, the city was broken. Towers lay split in half, jagged skeletons of steel clawing at the sky. Fires raged unchecked, painting the night orange. The stench of burning plastic, fuel, and flesh clung to the air. And the people, they stumbled through the streets like ghosts. Mothers carrying children with blank eyes. Men dragging loved ones from rubble. Some shouted prayers. Some didn't speak at all. IRA leaned against him, her breathing ragged. Your people still fight, even when there is no chance. Daniel swallowed hard. It's what we do. Scream cut through the smoke. Daniel's head snapped toward it. Down the block, a collapsed building had trapped a group of survivors, 2 kids and a woman pinned under rebar. Flames crept closer. He didn't think. He ran. Daniel, Syrah. Called, but he was already there. The woman thrashed, eyes wild. Help, please, my babies. Daniel dropped to his knees, bracing the metal beam. His muscles screamed as he heaved. The rebar shifted an inch. Not enough. Hey! He barked at a man standing nearby, frozen in shock. Get over here. Help. Me lift, the man blinked, then stumbled forward. Together they strained. Veins bulged, teeth clenched. Slowly, painfully, the being rose just high enough. Out! Daniel shouted. The kids scrambled free, dragging their mother with them. The instant they were clear, Daniel and the man let the beam crash back down, sparks flying. The woman clutched her children, sobbing. Thank you. Thank you. Daniel didn't answer. He was already moving to the next voice, the next cry for help. Syrah caught up with him, her face tight. You're slowing us down. Every moment you stop, you risk drawing their soldiers. Daniel's glare was sharp. Then they'll have to kill me, because I'm not leaving people behind. Her mouth opened, then closed. For once she had no answer. They moved together through the ruins. Wherever they found survivors, Daniel pulled them out bandaged wounds, carried the weak, shouted people back to their feet. Others began to follow. First 5, then 10, then more. A caravan of broken souls formed behind him, drawn by his stubborn refusal to give up. Some clutched improvised weapons, pipes, bats, kitchen knives. Others carried nothing but hope that, following this scarred, furious man might keep them alive a little longer. To Daniel, it wasn't heroism. It was necessity. Every face reminded him of the soldiers he hadn't saved years ago. He would not fail again. Not this time. Hours passed. Like minutes. The group picked through the ruins, slipping into alleys when the minion patrols thundered past. The soldiers moved in squads, their glowing visors sweeping the rubble, their weapons humming with lethal energy. Twice. The survivors almost broke once. When a drone swarmed overhead, once when a patrol fired into a crowd. Both times, Daniel's voice cut through the fear. Move! Stay low! Follow me! And they obeyed. By dawn, they had reached the shattered husk of an old suspension bridge. Its cables hung loose, swaying like broken vines. Fires smoldered across. The river. The group huddled on the cracked asphalt, exhausted. Sira sank against the rail, her robes torn, her wound seeping through the bandage. She watched Daniel silently as he tended to a child's burned arm, murmuring soft encouragement. Finally, she spoke. "You should have left them. Alone we might reach safety. With them we are slow, exposed, easy prey." Daniel didn't look. Up, his hands kept working, steady as ever. "I've seen what happens when you leave people behind." "And what happens?" He tied the bandage tight, then met her eyes. His voice was quiet, raw. "You spend the rest of your life seeing their faces every time you close your eyes." Sira's gaze softened. For a moment, she almost reached out, but then the ground shook. The survivors stiffened. Heads snapping up from the far side of the bridge. A shape rose from the rubble. It was massive, 30 feet tall, armored in black plating, legs like steel pillars. A Dominion war machine. Its cannons glowed with cold blue fire as it scanned the bridge. The survivors screamed. Some tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The bridge stretched out behind them, a dead end ahead. Daniel's stomach dropped. He'd fought soldiers. He'd fought walkers underground. But this was worse. Out in the open, no cover, no tricks. The machine's cannons locked onto the crowd. Daniel whispered, almost to himself, "Run." But no one moved. They were frozen, staring death. In the face. So Daniel stepped forward. He raised his voice, loud enough for all to hear. "Get behind me." Sira's eyes went wide. "Daniel, you can't." But he was already reaching into his bag, pulling out the last of his supplies. A flare, a broken radio, a bottle of alcohol. His brain spun, pulling scraps together into something, anything. The machine's cannons began to charge. Blue light gathered, humming louder. Daniel looked back at the terrified faces, the children clutching mothers, the men gripping pipes like useless spears. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Trust me," he said, and then he charged straight. At the war machine, asterisk fire on the bridge, the war machine's cannons burned brighter, blue energy pulsing as if the air itself trembled in fear. Daniel ran straight toward it. The survivors screamed behind him. Some reached out as if to pull him back, but he didn't slow. His boots hammered the cracked asphalt of the ruined bridge, every step echoing in his skull. He had seconds. Maybe less. The flare clutched in one hand, a bottle of alcohol in the other, the broken radio tucked in his vest. Pieces of junk, nothing more, unless a desperate human mind could stitch them together into a weapon. Think faster. Damn it. You don't have time. The machine's targeting lenses word, locking onto him. The line of its cannons grew to a screen. At 10 meters. Daniel lit the flare. Red light burst to life, blinding in the dawn haze. The machine's sensors flickered, recalibrating. Daniel hurled the flare into one cannon's faceplate. Sparks crackled across its vision array. He dove, rolling beneath its towering frame, as the flare clattered against the armor. One cannon discharged into the bridge deck, blasting a crater where he'd been. The shockwave nearly hurled him into the river. The survivors wailed. Daniel's ears rang, but he forced himself to his feet. The alcohol bottle was next. He tore the rag from his pack, shoved it in the bottleneck, sparked the flare stub against it until flame roared to life. A makeshift Molotov. "Chew on this," he growled. He hurled it at the machine's joint, where the armor plates overlapped. Glass shattered, fire spilled, flames clinging to wiring. The machine staggered a step, servos screeching, but it didn't fall. Instead, it bent low, its enormous claw swinging. Daniel ducked, but not fast enough. The blow caught him across the ribs and sent him flying. He hit the asphalt with bone-cracking force. Air blasted from his lungs. Pain exploded through his chest. For a heartbeat, the world swam black. Asterisk somewhere, he heard Sira scream his name. Through the haze, he saw the machine towering over him, cannons glowing, ready to end him with a single shot, and then pop. The broken radio in his vest crackled. A sound, faint but real. Feedback, interference. The machine froze. Its cannons flickered. Its targeting lens dimmed. Daniel blinked. What the hell? Sira's voice cut through the chaos, sharp with realization. The radio. It disrupts their systems. Daniel fumbled it out, thumb on the broken dial. Static hissed louder. The machine staggered again, plates shivering, lights glitching. Hope ignited. Daniel forced himself to his knees, ribs screaming. He twisted the dial back and forth, blasting bursts of noise. The machine convulsed, cannons discharging wild into the river. One shot vaporized a chunk of the bridge's side. The survivors gasped. Asterisk. Daniel, it works, Sira shouted. It's their control frequency. You're jamming it. Daniel's pulse thundered. Of course. The Dominion used a hive link to control their machines. Wireless, tight band, encrypted. But Earth was noisy radio waves everywhere. A broken signal could be poison to their perfection. He staggered forward, every breath agony, and shoved the radio against the machine's burning joint. Into its core. The giant convulsed. Lights flared across its armor, then sputtered. The great machine collapsed sideways with a seismic crash, its cannons dark. Asterisk. For a long moment, silence reigned. Smoke curled from the wreck. The survivors stared, stunned. Then someone whispered, "He killed it." And the whisper grew. "He killed it." Voices rose into a ragged cheer, echoing across the ruined river. Mothers held children tight. Men pounded each other's backs. Hope, fragile and burning, flickered to life in their eyes. Asterisk. Daniel stood over the smoldering husk, chest heaving, blood dripping from his mouth. He raised the broken radio high. "They're not gods," he roared. "They bleed, they break, and we can kill them." The crowd erupted in wild, desperate triumph. But Sira's gaze was fixed not on the wreck, but on the radio in his hand. Her scales shimmered faintly as realization dawned. "You've uncovered it?" she breathed. The Dominion's secret weakness. Daniel turned to her, wiping blood from his chin. "What weakness? Their empire runs on control. All their soldiers, their machines linked by signal. If you disrupt that," she swallowed, voice tight, "you could unravel everything." Daniel's eyes hardened. "Then we've got a fighting chance." But before Sira could answer, a shadow fell over the bridge. The survivors looked up. Their cheers died in their throats. Above, descending through the clouds, was a Dominion carrier. A leviathan of steel, blotting out the sky. Its belly opened, revealing swarms of soldiers ready to drop. Daniel's heart sank. They hadn't just killed the machine. They'd lit a flare in the dark, and the wolves had seen. The carrier's speakers thundered across the ruins. A cold, inhuman voice, primitive. "You should not have done that." The survivors clutched each other in terror. Daniel stared up at the descending doom, chest burning, ribs broken, radio buzzing weakly in his hand. He had shown them hope, but in doing so, he had drawn the Dominion's full wrath. Beside him, Sira whispered, "Now they know you're dangerous." The carrier's cannons swiveled toward the bridge, and Daniel realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. Humanity had just declared war. Asterisk. The wolves descend. The sky split open. Engines thundered as the Dominion carrier hovered above the shattered bridge, its underside glowing with 100 thrusters. From its dark maw, rows of drop pods released. Like iron fangs, each pod shrieked downward, trailing fire as it crashed into the ruins around the survivors. The pod split open, disgorging Dominion soldiers, towering, armored, faceless. Their rifles hummed with lethal light. Panic tore through the human survivors. Children screamed. Mothers clutched them tight. Some men scrambled to find rocks, sticks, anything to fight with. Daniel's broken ribs ached with every breath, but his eyes never left the carrier above. "They're not here for us," he muttered. "They're here for me." Sira glanced at him, her pupils narrow slits of fear. "Because you showed them their weakness." The Dominion voice boomed again, cold and absolute. "Surrender the human, or all will burn." A ripple of terror swept the crowd. Eyes turned toward Daniel. For a heartbeat, he felt the weight of betrayal hovering. Would they give him up to? Save themselves? But then a child spoke. A little boy, no older than 8, voice shaking yet fierce. "You leave him alone. He killed the monster, not you." The words hit the crowd like a spark in dry grass. Heads turned, fear shifting into something else. Defiance. Daniel clenched his fists. No one surrenders. Not today. The first Dominion soldier advanced, its boots crunching across the broken stone. Rifle raised. Its voice hissed through a metallic speaker. "Primitive. You are nothing." Daniel lifted the broken radio. He twisted the dial. Static screamed across the ruins. The soldier jerked mid-step. Armor plates spasming. Its rifle discharged into the ground, spraying dust. Then it froze, lights flickering. With a groan of tortured servos, it toppled. The survivors gasped. Daniel looked at the radio like it was Excalibur pulled from stone. "Guess again," he spat. The Dominion soldiers advanced faster, rifles blazing. "Scatter." Daniel roared. He ran, every step agony, ducking behind a cracked girder as beams of searing light chewed holes in the bridge. Sira dashed beside him, her slender form weaving gracefully through the chaos. She drew a knife from her belt, no match for rifles, but her stance was lethal. Predatory. The survivors fled in all directions, darting into ruined buildings, diving under broken stone. Some grabbed dropped rifles from the fallen Dominion soldier, firing wildly. Most shots went wide, but one connected, burning through alien armor. The crowd cheered, half in disbelief. Daniel twisted the radio dial again. Static howled. 3 more soldiers staggered mid-charge, movements glitching. One fell, twitching violently. Another turned its rifle on its own ally before both collapsed. Sira's. Eyes widened. "Daniel, you're not just jamming them. You're corrupting their link." Daniel grinned, despite the pain splitting his chest. "Then let's make it messy." The carrier above fired a warning shot, a beam of light that vaporized an entire building at the river's edge. Survivors screamed as debris rained down. The Dominion voice growled. "Enough. Hand over the human." "Last chance." Daniel bared his teeth. "You want me? Come and take me." Then he pressed the radio against his chest, turned the dial all the way. The static roared so loud it rattled his bones, and the soldiers around him went berserk. Some froze, some convulsed, some spun in circles, firing into the air. One squad turned, their rifles on the carrier itself, blasting its shields before collapsing in sparks. The bridge became chaos incarnate, humans screaming, Dominion troops malfunctioning, fire and smoke everywhere. Daniel staggered forward, holding the radio like a weapon, carving a path through the storm. His lungs burned. His ribs felt like knives. But he didn't stop. Sira stayed at his side, slashing any soldier that got too close. Her blade bit between armor joints, quick and precise. Each kill made her scales shimmer with adrenaline. But the carrier wasn't done. Panels opened on its underside. A massive cannon slid into place, humming with deadly power. Sira's face went pale. They're going to wipe the bridge. All of us. Daniel's mind raced. They couldn't fight a cannon. They couldn't outrun it. Unless he looked at the downed Dominion war machine, still smoldering from his earlier attack. Its cannons. Dark, but its reactor still glowing faintly. A dead engine. But maybe not completely dead. He turned to Sira. Help me get to that thing. She blinked, confused. What are you? No time. Trust me. Her throat frill flared. A sign of hesitation, but she nodded. Together. They sprinted through the chaos toward the wreck. Beams seared past, close enough to scorch their skin. Survivors shouted after them, but Daniel didn't look back. They reached the machine's corpse. Daniel dropped to his knees, tearing open a panel with shaking hands. Inside, wires glowed, pulsing faint blue. The reactor was alive barely. Can you overload it? Sira asked. Daniel's lips curled into a grin. I can make it blow sky high. Above, the carrier's cannon reached full charge. The hum grew deafening. The bridge vibrated underfoot. Daniel ripped wires with bloodied fingers, twisting too. Together, sparks leapt. He shoved the broken radio inside, static screaming into the machine's heart. The reactor's glow pulsed violently. He looked up at Sira. Her eyes locked with his. If this works, he said, run like hell. She shook her head fiercely. Not without you. The cannon fired. A beam of light, thick as a house, blasted. Downward at that same instant. Daniel jammed the last wire into place. The reactor went critical. A blinding explosion ripped the bridge apart. White fire consumed everything: the war machine, the Dominion soldiers, the beam itself. Shockwave hurled bodies through the air. The carrier above reeled, its shields flickering as debris hammered it. For a long moment, there was nothing but fire and roaring silence. When the smoke cleared, half the bridge was gone. The river below boiled, waves crashing. The carrier wavered, scarred, but not destroyed. Still, it drifted back, retreating slightly, as if stunned. On the broken edge of the bridge, survivors clung to rubble, coughing, bleeding, but alive. And Daniel lay crumpled on the concrete, blood pooling beneath him. The blast had thrown him hard. His chest barely rose. Sira crawled to him, scales blackened with soot. She pressed trembling hands against his wounds, tears streaking her face. Stay. With me, she begged. Don't you dare leave now? Daniel's eyes fluttered open. His voice was a ragged whisper. Did it work? She glanced at the retreating carrier, scarred and limping. Yes, you hurt them. A weak smile touched his lips. Good. Let's hurt them more. His hand closed weakly around hers. Above. The carrier's lights pulsed red, a signal across the sky. Warning, summoning, reinforcements. Sira's heart froze. The Dominion wasn't finished. This was only the beginning. The last broadcast. The night. Burned red. Above the ruined bridge. The Dominion carrier hovered like a wounded beast, smoke trailing from its scarred hull. Its retreat had been brief. Now, with lights flashing in furious pulses, it called for reinforcements. The sky answered. Dark. Specks appeared in orbit, swelling into massive shapes as they descended. More carriers, more dropships, more death. The Dominion wasn't going to punish Earth. They were going to erase it. On the shattered concrete, Daniel's blood seeped through his shirt. His breaths were shallow, ragged. Every inhale scraped like glass. Sira knelt at his side, hands pressed. To his chest, scales streaked with soot and tears. Around them, the survivors gathered, eyes wide, caught between awe and despair. They had seen Daniel bring down gods. But they had also seen the armada coming. A voice hissed from the carrier. Above, magnified for all to hear. Asterisk. You are anomalies, nothing more. This resistance ends now. The survivors trembled. Some wept. Others clutched their children. A few gripped stolen rifles with shaking hands, ready to fight to the last. Daniel forced his eyes open. His gaze flicked to the broken radio, now a blackened husk in the wreckage. His weapon was gone, his body broken. Yet inside his mind, something burned brighter than pain. They think. We're alone, he whispered. Sierra leaned closer, straining to hear. What? Daniel coughed blood, but his lips twisted into a faint, defiant smile. They don't know Earth. Her pupils dilated. Daniel, what are you planning? He tried to push himself up. Pain exploded through his chest, but he didn't stop. Two survivors rushed forward, helping him sit against a slab of concrete. His voice rose, thin but clear enough to carry. We're not soldiers. We're not conquerors. But we have something they don't. Something they'll never understand. The survivors leaned closer, desperate. The Dominion carrier waited above, its silence heavy, almost mocking. Daniel's cracked voice sharpened. We fight for each other, for our children, for people we don't even know. That's why they'll never win. Sierra's throat tightened. The humans around him straightened, their terror bending into something harder. But Daniel wasn't finished. He reached into his torn jacket and pulled out a small device, a handheld comlink scavenged weeks ago, cracked but functional. Its battery blinked red, dying. Sierra's frill flared in alarm. You can't jam them with that. It's too weak. Daniel shook his head. Not jamming. His eyes burned with resolve. Broadcasting. The survivors gasped. You're going to talk to them? One woman asked. Daniel's faint smile grew. Not to them. To everyone. He switched the comlink on. Static hissed. He tuned the frequency, fingers trembling. The device crackled, sputtered, then connected. Across the sky, the Dominion's own communication web stretched a net binding. Every ship, every soldier, every world under their rule. Daniel hijacked it. The comlink whined as its light shifted from red to green. Daniel leaned close, his voice raw but unbreakable. This is Earth, he said. His words echoed not just on the bridge, but across the comnet, leading into Dominion channels everywhere. They came to conquer us, but what they got was the truth. The survivors froze, listening. In distant skies, Dominion soldiers paused mid-march. On occupied worlds, slaves in chains turned their heads. Across the galaxy, ears strained to the alien voice of a human. Daniel's voice grew stronger, feeding on its own fire. They call us primitives, fragile, weak. But let me tell you what weakness looks like. Weakness is needing chains to rule. Weakness is silencing anyone who dares to think. Weakness is fearing those who fight for each other instead of for power. The survivors erupted into cheers, voices rising against the night. Sierra's eyes shone as she realized what he was doing. Not just fighting, but sparking something far greater. The Dominion carrier thundered overhead. Its voice cold, furious, silenced this broadcast. But Daniel didn't stop. You want to. And us? You can burn our cities. You can break our bodies. But you can't kill what makes us human. Our compassion. Our ingenuity. Our fire. That is what you fear most. And that is why your era ends tonight. He coughed blood into his sleeve, but his eyes blazed. The survivors shouted with him. Their voices echoed off the ruins, a defiant roar. For the first time, the Dominion hesitated. Sierra leaned close, whispering urgently. Daniel, the signal. Won't last. The battery's dying. Daniel nodded faintly. Then let's make it count. He pressed the transmit button one last time. His voice carried across 1,000 worlds. Rise, all of you. We're human. We're alive. And we will never kneel. The comlink crackled, sparked, then died. Silence. Then the galaxy itself seemed to exhale. Far above, the reinforcements drew closer, but their formation wavered. One ship slowed. Another veered slightly off course. Somewhere deep within the Dominion's empire, a slave ripped free his collar. On another world, a mechanic smashed a control panel, sparks flying. The Dominion had ruled through fear. Daniel had just lit a fire in that fear. The survivors on the bridge erupted into cheers, their voices carrying over the ruins. Some wept. Some shouted. All of them felt it, the turning of the tide. But the battle wasn't over. The carrier above descended lower, its cannons primed. If they couldn't silence Daniel's voice, they would annihilate his body and everyone around him. Syrah rose to her feet, knife gripped tight. Then we fight to the last. Daniel tried to stand. His legs trembled. His chest screamed. But he rose. He looked at the survivors, men, women, children, broken and bloodied, yet burning with defiance. He looked at Syrah, fierce and unyielding. At his side, he smiled. Together, the carrier's cannon charged, a blinding sphere of light forming. The survivors braced. And then the cannon flickered. The glow dimmed. The carrier's shield sparked, failing. Its thrusters stuttered. Alarms howled from within its hull. Daniel blinked in disbelief. What the hell? From the sky, streaks of fire tore downward. Not Dominion ships, not human planes. Something else. Rebellion craft. Alien designs. Crude but fast, marked with symbols of defiance. They swarmed the carrier, firing plasma bolts, tearing its armor apart. The broadcast had reached them. The galaxy was answering. The survivors on the bridge roared as the Dominion carrier reeled. Under the assault, its cannons sputtering before exploding in fire. It crashed into the river with a deafening roar, water and flame erupting skyward. The reinforcements above broke formation. Some pressed forward, but others turned away, faltering, uncertain. The spark Daniel had lit was spreading too fast to contain. Syrah stared at the burning sky, disbelief and hope warring on her face. "You did it," she whispered. Daniel's legs buckled. He collapsed, blood soaking his shirt. Syrah caught him, cradling his head. His eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. "Did we win?" he rasped. She smiled through her tears. "No, not yet. But you ended their era." His lips curved in a faint grin. "Good enough." The survivors gathered around, shielding him, their voices rising as one. For the first time in living memory, hope burned brighter than fear. And high above, in the vast night sky, the Dominion's empire began to crack. Not with bombs, not with fleets, but with the fire of a single human voice. Epilogue: the Spark Weeks. Later, the story of Earth's defiance spread across the stars. On world after world, chains broke, rebellions rose. Dominion garrisons fell silent. The galaxy whispered one name: Daniel, the human who had faced the impossible and refused to kneel. On Earth, survivors rebuilt in the shadow of their ruined cities. They painted the broken walls with words in bold, defiant strokes. "We will never kneel." And somewhere beyond the stars, Dominion rulers watched their empire fracture. Their age was ending, and humanity had lit the fire. Asterisk.